Good morning, everybody. Good morning, Susan. I see you there. At least I hope you're still in there. How is everybody this morning? Um, this will kind of have to be a kind of a quick live. I wanted to take longer, but my daughter is not feeling good, and I've got to go check her out from school here in about an hour. So anyway, thank you for being here, Susan. I really appreciate it. So anyway, this is kind of a somber morning, I guess, for most people here in the states. Like right now, 9:03 a.m. is exactly when the second tower was struck. Um, I haven't quite figured out how to share things on the screen yet, so I don't really know how to like share any videos that they're doing now. They're right now. I was just listening to them reading off the names right before I came on here. Um, so I guess I'm trying to give people a few minutes to get in here. Um, it doesn't seem like it's been 23 years. I don't know about the rest of y'all, but it doesn't seem like it's been 23 years ago. Sorry, hang on. Don't you knock me out of here. Sorry. um, I guess my question would be, since I really don't, like I said, I don't really know how to share screen or anything, but for some reason 9/11 is a rabbit hole I tend to go down a lot. Like, I like to watch. Susan, I think you're right. It does seem like yesterday. But not like I said, 9/11 tends to be a rabbit hole I go down a lot. I like to watch like the survivor stories and some of the most miraculous things, the miraculous stories that they have of how they narrowly escaped. Um, there's one that I watched. Let me see if I can. I've got to remember this guy's name because I meant to have. I'm sorry, I meant to have this already up. Oh, there was one. There was a survivor that I think I want to say his name was Roger. Sorry, I'm trying to think of it. I don't know. Let me hang on. Here we go. Okay, so Um, there's one story that I like to listen to. It's a story about. Let's see. There's two guys. One of them was sorry, I'm trying to remember one of his name. One of them was Stanley Prainmuth and Brian Clark. That's who it was. I don't know if y'all ever get a chance to ever watch like 9/11 stuff, but if you do, there's this, to me, is one of the most that's one of the stories I could watch over and over. Um, so apparently, let's see. I know Stanley worked at Fuji Bank. Brian worked at that was it Con. Hang on, I just had it up in front of me. Let's see. Euro Brokers. He worked at Euro Brokers, and I remember Brian talking about he, as they were coming down the stairs, he heard yelling, and he was just debating about him and some of his coworkers were debating about trying to go back up to get to the roof because they were being told that they couldn't go down. When he heard yelling, he went to where he heard the yelling from, and just a long story short, he wound up saving Stanley, who was trapped behind a wall. And the rest of Brian's coworkers went up, and then him and Stanley ended up going down. And because of that, his coworkers didn't make it that day, but they did. And there's all kinds of stories like that with the ones I've heard with 9/11. I'm sorry, Sabrina has decided to come say hello. One thing I wanted to talk about, which I was trying to let some people get in here, but where were you that morning when you heard about what had happened, or were you there? I wanted to know if there's anybody listening that, whether in the chat now or on the replay crew, or if any of y'all were actually there, whether it's the Pentagon or, the World Trade Center. I mean, obviously nobody was in the field in Pennsylvania. Nobody that's still living, But I remember my ex-husband and I had just been married for about 3 months, and I was working at a Babies R Us, and we had overslept a little bit that day. I had to get to work, and we had overslept just a little bit, and he was at the time he was working as the garbage, right on the back of a garbage truck, but for some reason, it seems like he had that day off. Yeah, I think pretty sure he had that day off. Maybe he was just running late. I don't remember. But I know we were on the way to take me to work when we had a friend that was a radio DJ, pretty well known one around here. And we were listening to him on the way to work, and I remember hearing. At first, we thought it was like like one of those pranks they pulled, back in the 60s, I guess, the War on the Worlds or whatever. We thought it was some kind of crazy prank. Because even though, then it kind of hit us. Our friend, he was a prankster. He's since passed away, but he was a prankster, but he wouldn't have done a prank like that. And right about the time we were just trying to figure that out, we were slowly realizing that, we heard him it was just utter horror in his voice saying, a second one just hit. So because we were running late that day, we didn't turn the TV on like we normally would when we got up. So we didn't have any clue of what was going on. So when he was saying a second one hit, it took us a minute to realize that he was talking about a plane hitting the other tower. Then when we got to my work, my boss was in her office. I actually should say everybody was in my boss's little tiny office, crowded in there watching it. I think at my work we had 2 customers that day. That was it. We just had 2. And then we ended up closing at like 2 o'clock in the afternoon, which would normally stayed open and take until like 8 o'clock at night. Susan said, I was headed to work, stopped at a gas station to get Coke, and heard someone talking about it. Went home and turned on the TV just in time to see the second plane hit the tower. Yeah. Like I said, that second plane for me, it hit when we were on the way to my work. Sorry. And I remember my now ex-husband. He went to put gas in the car, and I remember him talking about there was places that were price gouging on the gas because they were so afraid that the prices were going to shoot up. He said the line to get gas was horrible. My in-laws were in Hawaii, were on vacation in Hawaii, and they were scheduled to fly back that day, like later that day. And they ended up getting stuck in Hawaii because all the planes were grounded. And it was another 3 days before they were finally able to fly home. And I remember they had a timeshare in Hawaii. They had gotten their timeshare company that they had. They had a place. They actually had a timeshare in Florida, but the company, I guess, had another sister site in Hawaii, and they'd managed to switch or something. Anyway, so they had gone from staying at their timeshare, their condo, to staying in a motel room. And I remember my mother-in-law called us the night of the second day that they were stuck in that motel room, saying, if they don't get us out of here tomorrow, I'm talking, hang on. Wake up! Sorry about that. I remember her calling saying, if they don't get us out of here tomorrow, I am going. She's like, she said, they don't get us out of here tomorrow, I am going to take a boat. And she said, I don't care if it's a rowboat, I'm coming home. She was sick of being stuck in that room. But thankfully, she did not have to resort to a rowboat. Hey, Cinderella. So what we were discussing, Cinderella's, we were discussing, 9/11 and where we were. Where we were when it happened, or if, I'm curious if anybody either in my chat or on Replay Crew was actually there. I did have I did meet a guy years later that had moved down to my part of the country here in North Georgia, because he was from Brooklyn, and he had a lot of friends that passed in the towers, and that ended up being the reason for him moving, because he said he couldn't handle looking at where they used to be on the skyline, and they weren't there anymore. So he ended up moving. And oddly, I can't even most of the time I can't even think of his real name because everybody called him Brooklyn. Sometimes I forget that his name actually was not Brooklyn. But they, I'm sorry. Like I said, I like to go and listen to these survivor stories just because it gives me inspiration, I guess. It gives me hope in a weird way. I know that sounds weird to say that, but it does. Because one of the reasons I like listening to those stories is not because it's not because of the bad parts about it. The people that the past or what have you. the reason I like to listen to them is because I love hearing the stories of how people came together to help. Um, how people would even put themselves in danger trying to to help someone else. Um, the stories of the first responders that put themselves at risk the way they did. And I find it really sad that those first responders are still dying. They're still dealing with this. They're still they have all kinds of 9/11 related illnesses that they're having to deal with, and they're now saying that we have lost more to the illnesses, to the illnesses that came from 9/11 than we did on the actual day of 9/11. Cinderella, Cinderella says, I had taken my small kids to doctor's physical. The pediatric office had the news playing in the lobby. The poor kids in that office could feel what the adults were feeling in silence. I remember the silence. Yeah, and I know that had to have been hard. I don't. My oldest daughter, was not born until um, about 10 months later. So, and I remember at some points as she was growing up, just looking at her, thinking, how would I have explained it to her had she been born when that happened? Because I really don't know. I don't know how I would have explained it to her. I'm sorry, guys. My cat's just moved something. Scared the bejesus out of me. Um, Sorry, somebody's delivering something on my porch. I'm sure it's something of my husband's. Cinderella says I should have been at work. Yeah, see, I was running late to work. I think I was supposed to be there at 9 that morning, and I wound up getting there at like 9:05, which was like 2 minutes after the plane hit. I mean, after the second plane hit. But, hang on just one second, guys. I'm sorry. With my mom, I forgot to tell her I was doing a live. Hang on just a second. Guys, I'm sorry. She's likely calling to remind me about my daughter's doctor's appointment. So I accidentally told her earlier that it was at 10:45, and it's actually at 10:20. So luckily, we don't have far to go. It's very close to the school, and then from the school, it's very close to the school. Is literally almost right beside the doctor's office. Um, the doctors were great professional. My kids knew exactly what was happening. See, that's from Cinderella. Sorry. One of the things that I remember watching was a mom and her twin sons, which by of course by now are grown, but they were 11 when their dad was in the tower. He didn't make it out, and I remember they were talking about their memories of that day and how there's both of basically said there's big chunks of that day that they don't remember. Yes, that's probably like PTSI or whichever. Susan said, I work with my pastor's wife at State Farm when they came in. I'm sorry. When they came in, I told them I was in tears. We had prayer for them right in the office. Yeah, we were. I know there was prayer groups like everywhere, and I remember praying there at my work. I don't know that we prayed together. It wasn't like that, but one question I have been asked a lot is where was God that day? And I'm sorry, guys, I'm not trying to push my beliefs off on anybody, you know, but that's one thing I get asked a lot. And I think he was busy welcoming people home. Um, and the only thing I know to tell people that ask is that that's something we may not ever know the answer to why why it happened. Until we get to we get to where we go after this life. Maybe then we'll find out. But another thing I've said quite often is, well, and I think I've heard others say this too. Well, I would never want another 9/11. I would love to have more 9/12s because I know that that following day and quite a while afterwards, it felt like this country really came together. You know, it didn't matter. It didn't matter then who you voted for, what color your skin was, um, and none of that mattered. All that mattered was, that we were all Americans and we were all. And I remember somebody saying we were all New Yorkers that day. You know, but like I said, I would love to see that come about in this country again without the tragedy preceding it. You know, um, sorry, Gray is standing on my legs and pushing the computer. But I remember. I remember like calling various family members. I guess making sure that they were okay, even though they weren't in New York. And I don't know why I was asking them that. Hey, Dusty. I guess I just needed to hear their voices, and that was my excuse for calling. Dusty said, I've been crying since I woke up. The moment of silence threw me into a real hard cry. Working for an airline, 9/11 hurt me bad, and I still feel the pain today. Dusty, I'm so sorry. And, I cannot imagine what it was like to be working for, especially to be working, knowing people that were on those planes, working for an airline, and realizing that could have been easily been anybody. It could have been any plane. So Dusty, like I said, I'm so sorry that. I know this must be a hard day for you, but before I came on here, I was like I said earlier, I was actually watching the reading off of the names, and I think it's so cool that they do that, and that the family members are the ones that get up there and do it. I'm so sorry, y'all. Um, And now to realize, we have an entire generation of adults who don't remember this day. They don't remember what happened. My daughter is 22 and about to be a mother herself. And she doesn't remember, she wasn't there. She doesn't know what happened. That seems weird to me. You know, they say every generation will have at least one event that happens within that generation that everybody knows where they were when they heard about it. Um, I know for my parents' generation, it was the unaliving of JFK. My mom has told me about where she was when that happened. That she was in the seventh grade classroom. Now, Dad, I don't know that he's ever really talked about it, but I haven't ever really thought to ask him. Susan says lots of people stepped up that day and lost their life. Such amazing heroes. Yes. One other story I love to read, and I would have to. I'm sorry. Amy M. Hi, Amy. Says, I worked and lived in NYC that day. I worked in an NYC hospital and waited for patients that never arrived. She said, I smelled the burning from it. And I know that had to have been horrible. A lot of people that I've listened to have talked about being at the hospitals and waiting for those patients. They just weren't there. You know, and he says my apartment, the smoke drifted up the Hudson River. Wow. I'm so sorry, Amy. You know, um, sorry guys, my eyes are really bothering me this morning. That's why I keep trying not to rub at them, but it's hard. And apparently, this is one that doesn't join our streams all that often, but she would like to say hello. This is Shelly. Dusty. Hey, Nicole. Dusty says, I'm doing better here. I had to move away from Peter's chat. It was just too hard for me. Yeah. I was in KT Peter's chat when she was playing where they were reading the names and things. I was watching that on her stream. Amy says, I visited a restricted area right after and saw the twisted metal close up. I can't imagine. I just saw it on a video and I was horrified. You to me. It's what makes it I think even harder is it's horrifying to think there was 14 terrorists, I think, either 14 or 15, and just the actions of that few amount of people, and look at what they have caused, what they what how many lives they affected. It's too bad they couldn't do the same in reverse, by helping people and touch so many lives. Anyway, like I said, I just I wish we could have more of September 12th. No more September 11th, but September 12th. Oh, I know what I started to say. So I remember reading this story, and I'm sorry, guys. I really meant to have these names already pulled up, and I just got very sidetracked this morning. I wasn't. I was. I wasn't sure if I was gonna be able to actually do this morning because my daughter's been sick. Um. Let's see. I was trying to remember. There was three. There was a story about three men. I'm sorry. Where is it? I know it's here. I'm sorry. Dead air. Let's see. I'm sorry. I can't talk this morning. Okay. I can't seem to find it. So there was these three men. One of them I know was the sorry, one of them was he was like the uh, architect for the building. Sorry. And he says, I have a friend who is a doctor who worked on the 9/11 Commission and treats patients with 9/11 related illnesses. I know, and that is to me is it's so sad. Dusty said, I'm assuming you meant here. Dusty said, thank you for being here, Dawn and Susan in chat. Thank you so much. Dusty, you are more than welcome. Thank you for being here. And he is on the committee for World Health Trade Center. Dr. Mark Wilkenfield. Wow. Hey, no. So I wish I could remember those guys' names because I've read about them several times. I think one of them was Frank something, and I can't remember the other two. But one of them was like the one of the designers of the building, I believe, or something like that. And he had his wife was there in the office visiting. She worked on a different floor in the tower, but she was there visiting him in his off or in the office when the first plane hit. And I remember reading that how he talked about he told her to go on down and he would be right behind her, and then he ended up going up instead with two other guys, and they saved. They're not even sure how many lives they saved, but they saved quite a few of the lives by getting helping out people that were trapped and things like that. But then they themselves did not make it out. Um, Sometimes I think about the FDNY, one of the chiefs. I think it's a chief. I could be wrong on the rank, but he's talking about tells a story about sending a sergeant. Like I said, I could be completely wrong on these ranks. I'm not really good. Um, Not really good at those, but talks about sending a sergeant, I think, and all his men up the stairs, and he said none of them ever came back, and he said that was the last time I saw my brother. It was his brother that he had sent up there, Now that's something I don't know if I could. I don't know how I could live with that because it's not his fault. But I was still. I think if I were in his place, I would still blame myself. Yeah. Dusty said it's time. Moment of silence. Yeah, I think this is might have been the time the first when the Pentagon was struck. And Amy said, I had a patient whose grandson died. He was a firefighter. See, I can't imagine. So, my cousin, I think a lot of you have heard me talk about my cousin that passed away 14 years ago in a car accident, which, by the way, was caused by someone texting and driving. He was a firefighter, and I can't help thinking, how, which, he was still alive he was still alive when these happened. But I don't know if he was a firefighter yet at that time or not, or if he was still studying. But um, Dusty, I'm so sorry. Dusty's sitting out there playing taps, crying hard. You know what, Dusty? I'm sending you all the hugs I can. If I could, if I could hug you from Georgia, I would do that. But unfortunately, I don't have 500 plus mile long go gadget arms. Amy says I was in at the WTC in July of 2001. I still have the of business card of Windows on the World restaurant. Oh wow, that is very cool. I mean that you have the card. That's what. It's very cool that you have that. My sister actually got to visit the towers. I don't remember what year. I want to say it was late '90s, but I always wanted to, but I never actually got to. I'm sorry, guys. I feel like my thoughts are kind of all over the place this morning. Um, yes. Oh, I'm so sorry. Oh, I'm so sorry. I can't even stop yawning. Um, anyway, guys. Like I said, I do have to kind of keep this stream a little short because my daughter has her doctor's appointment, and I've got to go pick her up from school. And I seem to be losing my voice. Not really sure what's going on with that. Oh, sorry. Can't stop yawning. Now, I wanted to kind of stick around until we got past the time of each crash and all that, but unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to. I'm going to have to head out here in just a second because I do have to go get her. Um, I'm going to try. I can't make any promises. My husband also has an appointment later on today, but I'm going to try. Excuse me, sorry. I'm going to try to do another live maybe this evening or something like that. I'm not really sure. Um, Kind of depends on how the day goes and how the doctor's appointments go. But guys, I do have. I always forget to do the YouTube things, as Krista Melinda says. Please don't forget to hit the like, guys, or dislike, whichever. I'm not going to tell you how to think. Make sure you're subscribed. Hi, Helgier. Um, And also, of course, this is never expected, but it's definitely appreciated. I do have my buy me a coffee is in the channel description. If you feel so inclined to, if you'd like to support the channel in any way, I would appreciate it. Anyway, guys, like I said, I'll try to be back on later. I can't make any promises, but I'm gonna try. I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Dusty, I am always just a message away, and this, any of y'all, actually, but Dusty, I'm just a message away if you need to talk. But I love you guys. I will see you hopefully later on today, but if not, I will see you guys on Friday night. I have a live scheduled. I'm gonna kind of do like a YouTube version of an open mic. We're dropping the link in the chat, and just whoever wants to pop up can pop up. Anyway, guys, I love you all. I hope you have a great rest of your day. Susan, thank you for being here and being my mod. To all of you, have a good day.